The stench hit Emerson Hayes, first sweat, and fear mingling with the metallic tang of blood, and the acrid bite of industrial antiseptic. Kepler Station's slave market operated in a cavernous maintenance bay. All exposed pipes and harsh lighting that cast everything in unforgiving relief. Bodies stood in rows, chained at wrists and ankles, some standing proud, others hunched in despair. Emerson adjusted his jacket, feeling the reassuring weight of the blaster beneath. Not that he planned to use it. Not yet, anyway. The crowd around him was the usual mix of Off-Worlders Mining Corporation representatives looking for cheap labor, pleasure house operators examining merchandise with clinical detachment, private collectors seeking rare specimens, all of them operating in this lawless pocket of space where the hegemony's reach had withered after the wars. "Lot 17, called the auctioneer, a corpulent man with augmented vocal cords that allowed his voice to boom without amplification. Female, Sarathi clan warrior stock, prime genetics, fertile. Bidding starts at 20,000 credits. Emerson's attention snapped to the raised platform, where guards dragged forward a woman with obsidian skin that seemed to absorb the harsh light. Her eyes, vertical pupilled, and amber surveyed the crowd with predatory disdain rather than fear. Intricate markings traced her exposed shoulders and arms, telling a story Emerson couldn't read but recognized as clan heritage. Her wrists bore raw marks from restraints, but she held herself with unmistakable dignity. Unlike many of the other captives, she wasn't drugged into compliance. That spoke to both her value and the difficulty they'd had containing her. 4 armed guards flanked her, stunners held at the ready. The crowd murmured. Sarathi clan was rare stock indeed, known for enhanced strength, heightened senses, and fierce loyalty once broken. Emerson knew enough about the clan-based societies beyond the hegemony's borders to recognize a high-ranking member when he saw one. The distinctive copper thread braids woven into her hair marked her as the daughter of a clan leader. 25, called a voice. 30, countered another. Emerson watched her eyes narrow as bids climbed. There was calculation there, not just defiance. She was assessing, planning. He'd seen that look before, in the eyes of cornered predators and desperate Marines. She wouldn't remain captive long. She'd either escape or die trying. 50,000, came a new voice, silencing the room. A hegemony noble stepped forward, his tailored clothing marking him as old money. And another 10 for immediate transfer to my ship. The auctioneer's smile widened. 60,000 for the Sarathi female. Do I hear? 100,000 credits, Emerson said, his voice cutting through the sudden silence. He stepped forward into the pool of light, letting his colonial marine insignia catch the glare. It was an old trick. The insignia was decommissioned, but few civilian eyes could tell the difference. It lent him authority he no longer officially possessed. The room froze. Such a sum could buy a small spacecraft. The auctioneer recovered first, his augmented voice dropping to a reverent whisper that still carried. 100,000 credits from the gentleman. Going once. The noble turned, furious. 110. 150, Emerson countered immediately. The noble's face contorted with rage, but he stepped back. Even old money had its limits. Sold, the auctioneer declared, unable to hide his glee. Processing will prepare the documentation. Please proceed to... I'll take her now, Emerson interrupted, and the documentation brought to us. He activated his credit transfer, the soft chime confirming the transaction, drawing appreciative murmurs. The woman watched him with unblinking amber eyes as the guards brought her forward. Up close, he could see the fine tremor in her muscles, not fear, but the barely contained energy of someone ready to explode into violence at the first opportunity. Your property, sir, said the head guard, extending a control fob and digital contract tablet. Emerson took both, then looked directly into those predator eyes. I am not your master, he said clearly. You are Ula Sarathi, daughter of Korath, first of the clan. Are you not? Her eyes widened fractionally, the first genuine emotion he'd seen from her. You know my father. I know of him, Emerson replied, then held out the contract tablet to her. This says you belong to me. I'd like you to burn it. Confusion crossed her features. Around them, the crowd began to murmur uneasily as they realized something unexpected was happening. Emerson produced a small igniter from his pocket. Burn it, he repeated. You're free. The guards tensed, hands moving to weapons. The auctioneer stepped forward. Sir, that's most irregular. Once purchased, you may of course free your property, but there are protocols. I don't care about your protocols, Emerson said, not taking his eyes off Ula. The contract, burn it. Her hand, graceful despite its strength, took the igniter. With deliberate slowness, she touched it to the corner of the tablet. The specialized material caught immediately, chemical fire eating through plastics and circuitry, sending acrid smoke spiraling upward. The market's atmospheric scrubbers whined in protest. Security, the auctioneer bellowed. Theft of property fire hazard. Emerson's hand shot to his jacket. But instead of drawing his blaster, he pressed a small device. Throughout the market, lights flickered and died, plunging the space into darkness broken only by the burning contract in Ula's hand. This way, he murmured, taking her elbow to guide her. We have about 2 minutes before auxiliary power kicks in. To his surprise, she followed without resistance, moving with the silent grace of a born hunter, despite her chains. Why? She demanded, as they slipped between panicking market-goers. Questions later, Emerson replied, leading her toward a maintenance corridor he'd mapped earlier. Can you run in those restraints? In answer, she made a quick, violent motion with her wrists. Metal groaned, then snapped. The restraints fell away, leaving only the raw marks on her skin. Impressive, Emerson muttered. The ankles, too. Another crack, and she stood unbound. Lead, she commanded. They ran, as alarms began to wail throughout the station. Emerson had chosen this section of Kepler specifically because of its labyrinthine maintenance tunnels, a remnant of the station's hasty, wartime construction. Most of the security systems had been cannibalized for the more profitable public areas, leaving the tunnels largely unwatched. 3 levels down, then across to docking bay on 12. Emerson explained, as they descended a narrow utility ladder. My ship's ready for immediate departure. You knew you would find me, Ula observed, her voice betraying no exertion despite their pace. I knew I would find someone to help, Emerson corrected. You're the 7th person I've freed from that market, but you're the first clan heir. A sound echoed from above, boots on metal grating. The station security had entered the tunnels. They're following your plan, Ula noted. You've used this escape route before. Emerson grimaced. Yes, we need an alternative. He glanced around the junction where they'd paused, assessing options. How good is your sense of direction? Perfect, she replied without false modesty. Then we split up. Maintenance shaft C42 runs parallel to this one for 3 levels. It'll bring you out near the same docking bay. I'll draw them off. Ula's eyes narrowed. Why would I trust you? Because I just spent a fortune to free you, and because your father will pay twice that to get you back. Emerson met her gaze steadily. I could have kept you as property or sold you back to him. Instead, I burned the contract. She studied him for a moment longer, then nodded once. Bay 12. What's your ship called? The Wanderer. Gray and blue. Modified colonial transport. He hesitated, then offered her a small communicator. If I'm not there in 20 minutes, this will guide you to a safe house on level 5. She took it, then vanished into the darkness of the adjoining tunnel with predatory silence. Emerson turned and began running in the opposite direction, deliberately making enough noise to draw attention. It worked. Within moments, he heard the security team change direction, following his trail. He led them through a circuitous route, deeper into the maintenance tunnels where the gravity was inconsistent and the air tasted of recycler chemicals. When he was satisfied, they were thoroughly diverted. He doubled back through a series of access panels that security likely didn't even know existed. His time as a colonial marine had taught him to always map escape routes. The fact that he now used that training to undermine the very systems he once protected was an irony not lost on him. By the time he reached Docking Bay, 12 breathless, and with a minor laser graze on his left arm, the Wanderer's engines were already humming with pre-flight checks. The outer hatch stood open. Emerson approached cautiously. He'd left the ship sealed. Either Ula had somehow bypassed his security possible, given her evident skills, or someone else had found his vessel. "Your security is adequate against common thieves." Ula's voice came from inside. "But clan children are taught to break higher-grade systems before we learn to speak." Relief washed through him as he climbed aboard and sealed the hatch behind him. "Good to see you made it. Any pursuit?" "2 guards. They will not be reporting our location." Her tone made it clear what had happened to them. Emerson decided not to press for details. "Strap in. Station security will lock down the bay doors any second." He slipped into the pilot's seat, hands flying over the controls. The Wanderer was an old colonial transport that he'd modified extensively faster engines, better shields, and a few surprises that weren't on any registry. Most importantly, it had a transponder that could mimic various commercial identifications. "Docking clamps releasing," he announced as the ship shuddered. "Prepare for—" A heavy thunk reverberated through the hull. "Magnetic lock," Ula observed from the co-pilot seat she'd taken. "Expected that." Emerson flipped a series of switches. "Brace yourself." He activated a controlled electromagnetic pulse, illegal in civilized space. But Kepler Station was far from civilized. The pulse wouldn't damage the Wanderer's shielded systems, but it would momentarily disrupt the docking bay's magnetic locks. The ship lurched free. Emerson gunned the engines, sending them hurtling through the barely opening bay doors and out into the star-flecked blackness of space. Station defense turrets tracked them, but the Wanderer's enhanced engines quickly put them beyond effective range. Within minutes, they'd broken Kepler's orbit and were accelerating toward the system's jump point. "We're clear," Emerson announced, setting the autopilot. 2 hours to the jump point. Then we're beyond their jurisdiction." Ula sat in uncanny stillness, amber eyes fixed on him. "Now," she said simply, "explain." Emerson sighed, suddenly feeling the weight of the day. "My name is Emerson Hayes, former colonial marine, 45th Tactical Division. I served during the Hegemony Wars." "The Hegemony lost those wars," Ula stated. "Nobody won those wars," Emerson corrected grimly. "Just different degrees of losing. The colonies got their independence. The Hegemony kept their core worlds, and everyone else got caught in between, including the clan territories." "My people remain neutral." "Officially, yes. But neutral parties make excellent targets for both sides." He gestured around the ship. "After the wars, I found a purpose. The slave markets expanded into the power vacuum. I decided to do something about it, one person at a time." "Noble," Ula said, the word neither complimentary nor insulting. "But you knew who I was. You asked for me specifically." "I didn't," Emerson countered. "I go to the markets when I can afford to buy someone's freedom. I choose based on who seems least likely to survive the experience, or who has the most to lose. When I saw you a clan heir in chains, I knew something wasn't right." "The Sarathi do not sell their own." "That's what I thought. Which makes your presence there even more interesting." He studied her face, noting the subtle signs of exhaustion beneath her composed exterior. "When was the last time you ate or slept?" The question seemed to catch her off guard. 3 days. They believed hunger would make me more compliant. Emerson stood. The galley's small but functional. Let me get you something, and then we can continue this conversation. She followed him to the ship's compact kitchen area. The Wanderer had been designed for a crew of 6, though Emerson operated it alone. He pulled out preserved rations better quality than standard military fare, but still, nothing luxurious. It's not clan feast, but it's protein and calories, he said, sliding a heated plate toward her. Ula examined the food cautiously, then began to eat with precise, controlled movements. Even her hunger was disciplined. You should know, Emerson said as she ate. I've made inquiries about your disappearance. Your father has offered a substantial reward for your return. Her hand paused halfway to her mouth. My father sold me to those slavers. The simple statement hung in the air between them. That contradicts what I've heard, Emerson said carefully. I was there, Ula replied, her voice deadly quiet. I heard him make the arrangement. I saw the credits change hands. He arranged for raiders to capture me during a hunt, to preserve the clan's reputation of never selling their own. Her amber eyes hardened. Korath sold his own daughter and heir. Why would he do that, then offer a reward for your return? That, she said, pushing the empty plate away, is what I intend to discover, before I kill him. The casual certainty with which she spoke of patricide should have been chilling. But Emerson had seen enough of the galaxy's darkest corners to understand. Family betrayal cut deepest. My plan, he said, was to return you to your clan and collect the reward, which I'd use to free more people. If that's not possible. It is not. Then we need a new plan. He leaned back, studying her. The Wanderer is headed for a sanctuary world, a former mining colony, where I've helped establish a refuge for people who need to disappear. You'd be welcome there while you decide your next move. Ula considered this. How far? 3 jumps. About a week's travel. He hesitated. Unless you have somewhere else you'd prefer to go. No. Something vulnerable flickered behind her predator's eyes. I have nowhere. The admission seemed to cost her. Emerson recognized the moment for what it was, the first crack in a carefully maintained facade. You're safe here, he said simply. Get some rest. Second cabin on the left has a bunk and sanitation unit. I'll wake you before the jump. She rose with fluid grace, but paused at the galley entrance. Emerson Hayes, when we reach your sanctuary, I will repay this debt. There is no debt, he replied. Just people helping people. The Sarathi always pay their debts, she insisted, whether they be blood debts or life debts. With that cryptic statement, she disappeared toward the cabin. Emerson remained in the galley, thinking. If Ula was telling the truth and he had no reason to doubt her, then Korath's actions made no sense. Clan leaders lived and died by their reputation. Selling his heir would be political suicide. Unless there was something more at play, something important enough to risk everything. Emerson returned to the cockpit, checking their course and scanning for pursuit. Nothing yet. But Kepler Station wouldn't let such valuable merchandise go easily. They'd send hunters. He opened a secure channel and encoded a message to his contact on the sanctuary world, Captain Hayes. No relation despite the shared surname. The coincidence had amused them both when they first met during the wars. Now, the former colonial officer ran security for the growing settlement of refugees, deserters, and freed slaves that they'd established on the abandoned mining world they'd nicknamed Kepler's Rest. Incoming with 1 passenger, he transmitted. Clan royalty with complications. Expect pursuit. ETA 7 standard days. Hayes out. He closed the channel and leaned back in the pilot's seat, watching the stars. The ship hummed around him, systems functioning perfectly. For the moment, they were safe. That wouldn't last. 2 hours later, as they approached the jump point, Emerson went to wake Ula. He found her already awake, sitting cross-legged on the cabin floor in what appeared to be deep meditation. Her eyes opened as he approached. "Jump point in 10 minutes," he informed her. "First jumps can be disorienting if you're not prepared." "I have jumped before," she replied, rising smoothly. "During the wars, my clan provided guides for merchants traversing our territory." Of course, he'd forgotten that the clan territories contained several key jump points. "Still, you might want to be seated. My drive isn't exactly standard." In the cockpit, he ran final checks while Ula strapped herself into the co-pilot's chair. The Wanderer's jump drive was a hybrid part, standard colonial tech, part salvaged hegemony advancements, and part innovations from a brilliant engineer he'd rescued from a corporate prison. 3, 2, 1. The stars elongated around them as the ship punched through the fabric of space. The transition was smoother than military jumps, but rougher than luxury liners. When reality reasserted itself, they were in the Vesta system, a sparse region with a dying sun and little traffic. "First jump complete," Emerson announced. "2 more to go. We'll—" Alarms blared suddenly, cutting him off. The proximity sensors had detected 3 vessels emerging from jump points behind them. "Pursuit," Ula said calmly. "Sooner than expected." Emerson's hands flew over the controls, bringing up identification data. "Bounty hunters. High-end, too. Those are military-grade ships." "My father's influence extends far," Ula observed. "Those who curry favor with Korath are well rewarded." The Wanderer shuddered as targeting systems locked onto them. A communication request flashed on the console. "Should I respond?" Emerson asked. "They will offer terms," Ula said. "Return me unharmed for a reward greater than what you paid. Resist, and they will disable your ship and take me anyway." "Those aren't appealing options." "No," she agreed. "What weapons does this vessel carry?" "Not enough to take on 3 hunters." Emerson began evasive maneuvers, buying time to think. "But we might be able to outrun them to the next jump point."
"They will anticipate that."
A message came through despite Emerson not accepting the communication. The hunter ships had overridden his systems. "Vessel Wanderer," came a gravelly voice. "This is Collector Vray. You transport stolen property belonging to Korath of the First Clan. Return the female unharmed, and Korath offers triple your purchase price. Resist, and we will disable your ship and recover her anyway." Exactly as Ula had predicted. "Engaging thrust," Emerson muttered, pushing the engines to maximum. The Wanderer shot forward, accelerating toward the system's exit jump point. Laser fire lanced past them, near enough to register on the shields, but not direct hits. Warning shots. "They're hurting us," Emerson realized. "The jump point is blocked." Sure enough, one of the hunter ships had positioned itself directly in their path, while the other 2 maneuvered to cut off alternate routes. "Options?" Ula asked, her calm unbroken despite their dire situation. Emerson's mind raced. The Wanderer had one advantage: the hunters couldn't know about a modified reactor core that could channel excess energy in unconventional ways. It was a desperate measure, one he'd never actually tested in combat. "I have an idea," he said slowly, "but it's risky. If it works, we break free and make the jump. If it fails, we could lose power completely." "Death is preferable to returning to my father," Ula stated flatly. "Do it." Emerson nodded and began the complex sequence to initiate a controlled reactor overload. The ship's computer protested with multiple warnings that he overrode. "Collector Vray," he transmitted. "The woman you seek is free. She burned her contract. Under galactic common law, she is a person, not property." The hunter's laugh was cold. "Galactic law doesn't extend to clan territories, boy. And it certainly doesn't apply to clan heirs carrying hybrid genetics. She's an asset, not a person." Emerson frowned, glancing at Ula. "Hybrid genetics." Her expression had frozen at the hunter's words. "He should not know that," she whispered. Before Emerson could press further, The ship shuddered violently. One of the hunters had landed a direct hit on their rear shields. "Surrender now," Vray demanded. "Next shot hits your engines." "Reactor overload at 70%, Emerson muttered, watching the rising energy levels. 80, 90. He looked at Ula. "Hold on to something." At the last possible moment, he diverted all the excess energy to the rear deflectors. The shields bulged outward in a massive electromagnetic pulse, temporarily disrupting the hunter's systems and propelling the Wanderer forward with explosive force. The ship groaned under the strain, systems flickering as they hurtled toward the jump point. Behind them, the hunter ships tumbled in the electromagnetic backwash, temporarily disabled. "Jump drive online," Emerson reported through gritted teeth, fighting to maintain control of the bucking ship. "Coordinates locked. Jumping in 3, 2, 1. The stars stretched again as they escaped into the relative safety of hyperspace. Only, when they were securely in transit, did Emerson allow himself to breathe normally again. "That," he said, running damage assessments, "was closer than I'd like." Ula was watching him with new interest. "You modified a standard reactor to create a directional pulse. Ingenious."
And possibly a one-time trick. The reactor's running hot. We'll need to let it cool before the final jump. He turned to face her directly. Now, what did he mean about hybrid genetics? Her posture stiffened. "That is clan business."
"It's my business too if I'm risking my life and ship over it," Emerson countered. "What aren't you telling me, Ula?" For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, with deliberate movements, she extended her arm and pressed a specific sequence of points along the markings there. Her skin shifted, revealing a small access port, a biometric interface.
"If you wish to understand," she said, "you will need medical scanning equipment."
The Wanderer's medical bay was basic but functional, designed to handle the injuries a solo operator might sustain in dangerous space. Emerson activated the scanner, calibrating it for non-human physiology as best he could. Ula lay on the examination table with the same composed dignity she'd shown in the slave market, neither embarrassed nor concerned as the scanner hummed over her body. The results appeared on the monitor, and Emerson stared in confusion. "This can't be right." "What does it show?" Ula asked, though her tone suggested she already knew. "According to this, you're—" He struggled to find the right words. "You're carrying a child, but the fetal DNA is showing markers from at least 3 distinct species: human, Sarathi, and something the scanner can't identify." Ula sat up, her face impassive. "Now you understand why my father sold me, and why he wants me back."
"I don't understand any of this,"
Emerson admitted.
"How is this possible? The genetic engineering required would be beyond even hegemony technology." "It required no engineering," Ula said quietly. "Only prophecy."
Before she could elaborate, the ship's alarms blared again. Emerson rushed back to the cockpit, Ula following close behind. "Impossible," he muttered, checking the readings. "They've tracked us through the jump. They're right behind us."
"My father's resources are greater than you realize," Ula said, strapping herself in, "and his determination is absolute.
We're still 6 hours from the next jump point, and the reactor needs time to cool." Emerson's mind raced through options, each less promising than the last. "We can't outrun them, can't outfight them, and can't jump." "There is another option," Ula said.
"Open a channel to my father."
Emerson looked at her in surprise. "You want to talk to him after what he did?" "I want you to hear from his own mouth why he did it." Her amber eyes had taken on a dangerous gleam. "Then you can decide if I am worth the risk you've taken." Against his better judgment, Emerson established a secure channel using the clan frequencies Ula provided. Almost immediately, a holographic image materialized in the cockpit, a tall, imposing figure, with the same obsidian skin and amber eyes as Ula. Though his were filmed with age, intricate markings covered his visible skin, far more elaborate than his daughter's. "Ula," the clan leader said, his voice deep and resonant, even through the transmission. "You disappoint me with this defiance." "Father," she replied coldly, "you disappoint me with your treachery." Korath's expression didn't change. "Who is your companion?" "Emerson Hayes," she supplied, before Emerson could speak. "He freed me from the chains you placed me in." "Did he?" Korath's gaze shifted to Emerson. "Or has he merely delayed the inevitable 'my hunters will recover you'? Daughter, this human has only prolonged your journey." Why, Emerson found himself asking, why sell your own daughter an heir? What could possibly be worth that? Korath studied him for a moment. "You've scanned her. You know what she carries." "A child with impossible genetics." "Not impossible. Prophesied." The clan leader's voice took on a reverent quality. "For 10 generations, our seers have spoken of a child born of 3 worlds human, Sarathi, and the ancient ones whose ruins litter our territories. This child will unite the fractured galaxy through powers we have only begun to understand." "You engineered this pregnancy," Ula accused. "You selected genetic material without my knowledge or consent." "I ensured the prophecy would be fulfilled," Korath corrected. "The child you carry will end centuries of conflict between our peoples. It will possess the empathic resonance of the ancients, capable of bridging minds across species. Through this child, true understanding becomes possible." "So you sold your daughter to slavers." Emerson couldn't keep the disgust from his voice. "I arranged for her safe transport to a secure facility where the pregnancy could be monitored," Korath replied smoothly. "The slave market was merely a convenient cover. The bidders were my agents, until you interfered." "Liar," Ula hissed. "I saw genuine slavers examining me like meat. You sold me to whoever would pay most." "A necessary deception," Korath insisted. "The prophecy requires hardship and betrayal before revelation. The child must be born amid conflict, in the crucible of opposing forces." "You speak of prophecy to justify treating your daughter like breeding stock," Emerson said flatly. "I have heard enough." He moved to terminate the transmission. "Wait," Korath commanded. "Human, I offer you 10 times what you paid for my daughter. Return her to my hunters, and you will be wealthy beyond imagining." "She's not for sale," Emerson replied, "and neither am I." "Then you will die together," the clan leader said simply. "My hunters have orders to recover Ula at any cost. If that means destroying your ship and retrieving her from the wreckage, so be it." Ula leaned forward. "The prophecy says nothing of the mother surviving, does it? Father, you need only the child." A telling silence was her answer. "Goodbye, Father," Ula said coldly, and gestured for Emerson to cut the transmission. The hologram vanished, leaving them alone with the knowledge that 3 hunter ships were closing in, authorized to kill them both as long as the unborn child could be recovered. "I believe," Emerson said after a moment, "that we need a new plan." Ula's hand moved unconsciously to her abdomen. "I will not be a vessel for his ambitions, nor will my child be a tool for his power." "I agree," Emerson said grimly. "But right now, we need to focus on staying alive." He returned to the controls, analyzing their options. The reactor was still cooling, making another energy pulse impossible. Their weapons were insufficient against 3 military-grade vessels. Their speed couldn't outpace the hunters. "There's an asteroid field at the edge of the system," he noted, changing course. "If we can reach it, we might be able to lose them long enough for the reactor to cool." "They will anticipate this strategy," Ula observed. "Yes, but they'll also be cautious. They need to recover you intact, which means they can't risk heavy weapons in an asteroid field." He glanced at her. "How far along is the pregnancy?" The question seemed to catch her off guard. 3 months, according to your scanner, but the development is accelerated. The child will be born within weeks, not months." "All the more reason for your father to be desperate to recover you," Emerson muttered. And all the more reason for us to ensure he doesn't. The Wanderer changed course, heading for the distant cluster of asteroids. Behind them, the hunter ships adjusted their trajectory to match. "We need to reach the medical bay again," Ula said suddenly. "There's something you should see." Puzzled, Emerson set the autopilot and followed her back to the small medical compartment. Ula accessed the scanner again, this time adjusting settings with practiced ease. "Your equipment is basic, but it should be able to detect this," she said, focusing the scanner on her abdomen. "Watch." The image that formed on the screen showed the developing fetus, tiny, but clearly humanoid. But surrounding it was a faint luminescence that pulsed in rhythm with its heartbeat. "What am I looking at?" Emerson asked. "Quantum entanglement at a cellular level," Ula explained. "The child's cells are generating an empathic field weak now, but growing stronger each day. This is what the prophecy spoke of, the ability to create psychic connections across species barriers." Emerson stared at the screen, scientific skepticism warring with the evidence before his eyes. If this is real, it would change everything. Instantaneous communication, shared understanding across cultural divides, and absolute control in the hands of whoever raises the child. Ula added grimly, "My father intends to mold this power to serve clan interests, to create a puppet ruler who can manipulate the emotions and thoughts of entire populations." The implications were staggering. "No wonder he's willing to go to such lengths. Now you understand why I cannot return to him." Her amber eyes met his. "And why I must ask for your continued help, despite the danger it brings to you." Before Emerson could respond, the ship jolted violently. They'd entered the asteroid field, and the hunters were close behind. "We need to get back to the cockpit," he said urgently. They raced through the corridors of the Wanderer as the ship weaved between massive chunks of rock and ice. Emerson took manual control, his years of colonial flight training serving him well as he navigated the treacherous field. The hunters followed, more cautiously, but with determined precision. One broke formation, circling wide to cut off their potential exit route. "They're trying to trap us," Emerson noted, executing a tight turn around a slowly rotating asteroid. "Force us deeper into the field where we'll have nowhere to run." The reactor, Ula asked, scanning the ship's systems. "Still too hot. We need another 10 minutes minimum." He frowned at the readouts. "And we don't have 10 minutes. A proximity alert wailed as one of the hunter ships closed in. Weapons charged. It fired a precision shot that grazed the Wanderer's port side, sending tremors through the hull. "Warning shot," Emerson muttered. "Next one will target engines." Ula studied the tactical display with a warrior's eye. "There!" She pointed to a dense cluster of asteroids. "That formation creates a narrow corridor. If we can reach it." "They'd have to follow single file," Emerson finished, immediately adjusting course. "Good thinking." The Wanderer dove toward the asteroid cluster, engines straining as Emerson pushed the ship to its limits. Behind them, the hunters realized their intent and accelerated to cut them off. "Not going to make it," Emerson gritted as the lead hunter ship moved to block their path. "We will," Ula contradicted, reaching for the weapons control. With unerring precision, she fired a burst from the Wanderer's forward cannons, not at the hunter ship, but at a small asteroid in its path. The rock exploded into fragments that peppered the hunter's shields, momentarily distracting its pilot. It was all the opening they needed. The Wanderer slipped past, diving into the narrow corridor between massive asteroids. The hunters followed, now forced into a line as Ula had predicted. The confined space limited their maneuverability, preventing them from surrounding the Wanderer. "Reactor status?" Ula asked. 8 minutes to safe pulse levels," Emerson replied, swerving to avoid a jagged outcropping. "But we've got another problem. This corridor dead ends in about 5 kilometers. The tactical display confirmed his assessment. They were flying into a natural cul-de-sac formed by the clustered asteroids. "Perfect," Ula said with unexpected satisfaction. Perfect, Emerson echoed in disbelief. We're trapping ourselves. We're trapping them, she corrected. Can your pulse be channeled in multiple directions? Understanding dawned. Yes, but it would be weaker, less effective. We don't need effectiveness. We need chaos. Her predator's smile was all teeth. When we reach the end, execute a full reverse and channel the pulse outward in all directions. That might rupture the reactor containment, Emerson warned. It might, she agreed. Or it might create enough disruption in the asteroid field to buy us the time we need. It was a desperate gambit, but they had few alternatives. As they approached the end of the asteroid corridor, the hunters, close behind, Emerson began the reactor overload sequence again. Brace for reverse thrust, he warned, hand hovering over the controls. The moment they reached the end of the corridor, he slammed the ship into a full reverse, simultaneously diverting reactor energy to a omnidirectional pulse. The Wanderer shuddered violently as conflicting forces tore at its structure. The pulse exploded outward, weaker than before but affecting a wider area. It disrupted the hunter's systems momentarily, but more importantly, it destabilized the surrounding asteroids. Smaller rocks began to shift and tumble, creating a cascade of collisions. Full thrust, Ula commanded. Up and over. Emerson pulled the ship into a steep climb, skimming the surface of the largest asteroid as the corridor behind them began to collapse. One hunter managed to follow their maneuver, but the other two were caught in the avalanche of tumbling rocks. One's still on our tail, Emerson reported, pushing the engines beyond safety limits. The reactor, dangerously hot. We can't risk another pulse. Ula considered for a moment. The secondary fuel cells, can they be ejected? Emerson's eyes widened at the implication. Yes, but... Do it when I tell you, she interrupted, taking the weapons controls again. She waited, watching the tactical display with predatory patience as the remaining hunter closed in. When it was nearly within optimal firing range, she nodded. Now, eject and ignite. Emerson hit the emergency fuel cell release, then triggered the external ignition sequence. The cells exploded behind them in a blinding flash. Not powerful enough to destroy the hunter, but sufficient to temporarily blind its sensors. Jump point, Emerson said, relief evident in his voice as they cleared the asteroid field. We're going to make it. The Wanderer limped toward the system's exit point. Reactor cooling gradually, and damage reports flooding in from multiple systems. They'd survive, but the ship would need significant repairs. Reactor stable enough for jump, Emerson announced as they approached the transition point. Jumping in 3, 2, 1. Space folded around them once more, carrying them to their final destination, the sanctuary system that housed Kepler's rest. Only, when they were safely in transit, did Emerson allow himself to relax. That, he said with feeling, was too close. Ula nodded, her own tension visibly easing. Your ship performed admirably, despite the strain we placed on it. The Wanderer's tough, Emerson said with affection. But she'll need time in dock after this. He ran a diagnostic, frowning at the results. Main drives operating at 60% efficiency. Life support stable, but backup systems are offline. Communications array damaged. Will we reach your sanctuary? Yes, but not gracefully. He set the autopilot and turned to face her fully. We have a few hours before arrival. I think it's time you told me everything about this child and the prophecy. Ula's hand rested on her abdomen, a protective gesture that seemed at odds with her warrior demeanor. The Sarathi clan has guarded the ruins of the ancients for generations. Their civilization was destroyed millennia ago, but their knowledge, fragments remain. Among those fragments were prophecies of a child who would unite 3 bloodlines and heal the wounds between worlds. And your father decided you would be the vessel for this miracle child. Not only my father, Ula corrected. A conclave of clan leaders and seers made this decision generations ago, selecting genetic lines to preserve and combine. I am the culmination of centuries of careful breeding, as is the human genetic material they selected. Wait, Emerson interrupted. You're saying they chose specific human DNA whose— I don't know, Ula admitted. The procedure was performed while I slept. I knew nothing of it until I began experiencing the symptoms and confronted my father. Emerson shook his head, disgust evident. They violated you, used you as an experiment. For the greater good, as they see it. Her voice was bitter. The needs of all peoples outweigh the rights of one woman. That's not how rights work, Emerson said firmly. Not where I come from. Nor in my heart, Ula agreed quietly. Which is why I cannot allow my child to become their tool. This gift, this empathic resonance, should not be controlled by any single faction. What will you do? I don't know, she admitted, vulnerability breaking through her composed exterior. I only know what I will not do. I will not return to my father. I will not surrender my child to become a weapon of influence. Then we'll figure it out together, Emerson promised. Kepler's Rest is beyond hegemony control and clan influence. It's a place for new beginnings. No place will be beyond my father's reach for long, Ula warned. Not with what is at stake. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it, Emerson replied. First, let's get there in one piece. The remainder of their journey passed in tense, but companionable silence. Both lost in their own thoughts about the implications of the child Ula carried. Emerson made what repairs he could to the damaged systems, while Ula rested. Her accelerated pregnancy taking a visible toll, despite her enhanced physiology. When they finally dropped out of hyperspace near Kepler's Rest, the Wanderer was barely holding together. Multiple systems had failed during the final jump, leaving them with minimal power and compromised stability. Kepler's Rest Control. This is the Wanderer, Emerson transmitted, requesting emergency docking and medical assistance. Static answered him. The communications array had finally given out. Can we make orbit? Ula asked, concern evident as warning lights flashed across the console. We're going to have to— Emerson fought with the controls as the ship shuddered. Atmospheric entry in 3 minutes. This might get rough. Rough proved to be an understatement. The Wanderer's damaged hull screamed in protest as they hit the upper atmosphere of Kepler's Rest. Heat shields already compromised from their earlier battles began to fail, and the cockpit temperature rose alarmingly. Primary landing systems offline, Emerson reported through gritted teeth. Switching to manual control. Ula said nothing, her knuckles white as she gripped the armrests of her seat. Outside the viewport, the blackness of space gave way to the fiery orange of atmospheric entry, then to the clouded blue-gray sky of Kepler's Rest. Below them, the settlement came into view, a collection of repurposed mining structures and new construction nestled in a valley between ancient excavation pits. A landing pad glowed with guidance lights. Someone below evidently having spotted their approach despite the communications failure. Hang on, Emerson warned as he fought to line up with the pad. This won't be pretty. The Wanderer hit hard, bouncing once before skidding to a halt at the edge of the designated area. Emergency systems deployed automatically, spraying fire suppressant over the most damaged sections of the hull. Before Emerson could unbuckle his restraints, the external hatch was forced open. Armed figures poured in, led by a tall woman with close-cropped gray hair and the bearing of a veteran officer. Hayes, she called, spotting Emerson. Still making dramatic entrances, I see. Captain, Emerson acknowledged with a pained smile. Sorry about the mess. Captain Hayes, Emerson's former commanding officer and namesake, surveyed the smoking wreckage of the ship. You've done worse. Who's your friend? Ula had risen from her seat, stance defensive despite her obvious exhaustion. I am Ula Sarathi, daughter of— She hesitated. Just Ula Sarathi. The captain nodded, recognizing the significance of the omission. Welcome to Kepler's Rest, Ms. Sarathi. I understand you're in need of medical attention. Ula's hand moved to her abdomen.
Yes.
Dr. Voss is standing by, Captain Hayes said, gesturing to her team to lower their weapons. Emerson mentioned complications in his transmission. You got my message, Emerson asked in surprise.
I thought communications were down across the settlement.
They were, the captain confirmed. Still are, mostly. But emergency channels still work. Enough for us to know you were inbound with precious cargo, and pursuers, likely behind you. 3 hunter ships, Emerson confirmed. We lost 2 in an asteroid field, damaged the 3rd, but they'll have reported our heading. Then we'd better move quickly, Captain Hayes decided. My team will secure what's left of your ship. You two, with me. They exited into the harsh sunlight of Kepler's Rest, a world once stripped for its mineral wealth and abandoned when the veins ran dry. The settlement had repurposed the mining infrastructure, turning extraction facilities into living quarters and processing plants into community centers. Dr. Voss met them at the medical facility, a converted ore analysis lab now equipped with salvaged and donated medical technology. The doctor was a thin, austere man with cybernetic enhancements, visible at his temples, neural processors that allowed him to interface directly with medical equipment. Captain Hayes briefed me on the situation, he said without preamble. A hybrid pregnancy with accelerated development. Fascinating.
Not to me, Ula said sharply. This child was created without my consent as part of a clan prophecy. I need to understand exactly what is happening to my body.
The doctor's clinical demeanor softened slightly. Of course. Let's begin with a comprehensive scan. While Dr. Voss examined Ula, Emerson conferred with Captain Hayes about their security situation. We've upgraded defenses since your last visit, she informed him, displaying a tactical map of the settlement. Automated turrets covering all approach vectors, early warning system extending to the outer atmosphere, and a militia of 300 trained fighters. Korath won't send just hunters this time, Emerson warned. If he believes his grandchild is the key to fulfilling a generations-old prophecy, he'll commit serious resources. Let him, the captain said grimly. This settlement was founded as a haven for people escaping exactly that kind of control. We've repelled corporate reclamation teams and hegemony tax collectors. We can handle clan warriors. I hope you're right, Emerson murmured, studying the defenses. Because I have a feeling we won't have long to wait. His prediction proved accurate. Within hours of their arrival, the settlement's early warning system detected multiple ships entering the system. Captain Hayes ordered defensive preparations, while Dr. Voss accelerated his analysis of Ula's condition. The fetal development is unlike anything I've seen, the doctor reported in the command center, where Ula and Emerson had joined the defense planning. The genetic integration is seamless, human, Sarathi, and a third genetic profile that matches fragments we've recovered from ancient ruins on the northern continent. The ancients had settlements here, Emerson asked in surprise. Briefly, Captain Hayes confirmed. Before whatever catastrophe ended their civilization, we've been excavating their technology for years. It's how we built our defense systems. Ula studied the medical data with intense focus. How long until the child is born? At the current rate of development days, not weeks. Dr. Voss adjusted his neural interface, bringing up more detailed scans. The empathic field is strengthening exponentially. It's already affecting nearby electronic systems. Is that why our communications are degrading? Captain Hayes asked sharply. Possibly. The field seems to interfere with certain frequencies, while enhancing others. The doctor turned to Ula. Your child is already attempting to communicate, in its way, creating connections. A warning klaxon interrupted them. Multiple vessels entering atmosphere, reported a sensor operator. Configuration matches clan assault carriers. Estimated 40 craft. Potential troop capacity 300 warriors.
Korath is not coming to negotiate,
Ula observed grimly. No, Captain Hayes agreed. He's coming to take what he wants. She activated the settlement-wide communication system. All personnel to battle stations. This is not a drill. Civilians to shelter areas immediately. As the settlement mobilized for defense, Emerson pulled Ula aside. You should be in the medical facility, protected. I am a warrior of the Sarathi clan, she reminded him with a flash of pride. I will not hide while others fight my battle. This isn't about pride, Emerson insisted. It's about protecting your child. If what Dr. Voss says is true, you could give birth at any time. You need to be somewhere safe. Before she could respond, Captain Hayes joined them. He's right, Ms. Sarathi. But not about the medical facility, it's too exposed. We have a better option. She gestured for them to follow. The original colonists built bunkers beneath the main processing plant, shielded against radiation and designed to withstand orbital bombardment. If Korath brings his full might against us, that's where you need to be. Ula looked ready to argue, but a sudden spasm crossed her face, pain she quickly mastered, but couldn't entirely hide. Contractions, Dr. Voss asked, noticing immediately. Yes, she admitted reluctantly. Since we landed, increasing in frequency. Then it's decided, Captain Hayes said firmly. Emerson, get her to the bunker. Dr. Voss, go with them. I'll coordinate the defense. Emerson hesitated. Captain, you'll need every fighter. What we need, the older woman cut him off, is to ensure that child isn't born into captivity. That's your mission now, Marine. The formal address, Marine, not Hayes, carried the weight of a direct order. Emerson nodded sharply. Yes, ma'am. As they made their way to the bunker complex, the first sounds of battle reached them, the distant thunder of clan ships breaking the sound barrier, the sharp crack of defense turrets tracking targets. The bunker was austere, but well-equipped, with medical supplies, food stores, and independent power systems. Dr. Voss immediately began setting up for a delivery, while Emerson established a communication link to the command center. Status report, he requested, as soon as the link stabilized. First wave incoming, Captain Hayes responded, her voice tight with concentration. Clan forces deploying north and east of the settlement. Preliminary strikes against our outer defenses. Casualties. None yet. Our people are in position. The connection crackled with interference. Status on your end. Secure in the bunker. Dr. Voss is preparing for imminent delivery. Good. Hayes out. The connection terminated, leaving Emerson feeling isolated and useless. He'd fought in countless battles during the wars, led missions behind enemy lines, faced impossible odds. But this waiting underground while others fought went against every instinct. Ula seemed to sense his conflict. You wish to be above, fighting. I'd be more useful there, he admitted. No, she contradicted, her voice strained as another contraction hit. Your place is here. My father will send his best trackers to find me, while the main force engages your defenders. When they come, we will need your skills. As if summoned by her words, a proximity alarm sounded. Dr. Voss looked up from his preparations in alarm. Movement in the access tunnels, Emerson reported, checking the security feed. 3 figures, clan markings. They're tracking you somehow. Blood resonance, Ula explained grimly. Clan trackers can follow genetic signatures of their own bloodline. They've been hunting me my whole life during training exercises. She struggled to rise. Give me a weapon. You're in labor, Dr. Voss protested. I am a Sarathi warrior first, she replied coldly. This child will not arrive for hours yet. I can still fight. Emerson made a quick decision, retrieving a blaster from the weapons locker. Stay here, he ordered. Defend the doctor and yourself. I'll deal with the trackers. They will sense your approach, Ula warned. Their abilities are not limited to bloodlines. Then I'll have to be smarter, not stealthier. Emerson checked his weapon and moved to the bunker entrance. Seal this behind me. Don't open it for anyone but Captain Hayes or myself. Confirmed by voice print. He slipped into the dimly lit access tunnel, the heavy door sealing behind him with a reassuring thunk. The tunnel complex had been designed as both shelter and escape route, with multiple branching paths leading to different sections of the settlement. Emerson moved quietly, relying on his colonial training as he navigated the labyrinth. The trackers would have the advantage of their enhanced senses. But he had intimate knowledge of the settlement's layout. Captain Hayes had insisted he memorize it during his first visit. He found the first tracker at a junction, a tall, lean figure, with the distinctive markings of the Sarathi clan etched into obsidian skin. The tracker moved with predatory grace, head tilted as if listening to sounds beyond human perception. Emerson waited until the tracker passed his position, then struck a precise shot to the back that dropped the clan warrior without a sound. 1 down, 2 to go. The second proved more challenging. Alerted by some sixth sense to his comrade's fall, this tracker moved more cautiously, checking corners and shadows. Emerson was forced to circle around, using a parallel tunnel to get ahead of his quarry. Their confrontation was brief, but violent. The tracker sensed Emerson's presence a moment before he attacked, whirling with inhuman speed to parry his shot. They grappled in the confined space, the tracker's enhanced strength nearly overwhelming Emerson until he managed to pin the warrior against a junction box. Electrical current surged through them both, but Emerson's insulated boots protected him, while the tracker convulsed and collapsed. The third tracker found him before he could recover. This one was female, with the same copper thread braids that Ula wore a relative, perhaps even a sister. She attacked with fluid grace, her weapon a blur as she forced Emerson back down the tunnel. "Human," she hissed, her accent thick but understandable. "Return the vessel to her rightful place." "She's not a vessel," Emerson snapped, blocking a strike that would have crushed his windpipe. "She's a person, with rights and choices." "The prophecy is greater than one life," the tracker insisted, landing a blow that sent Emerson sprawling. "The child will unite worlds." "Not through coercion," Emerson gasped, rolling away from a follow-up strike. "Not as a tool of control." The tracker hesitated, just for a moment, but it was enough. Emerson swept her legs, sending her crashing to the floor, then delivered a precise blow to a nerve cluster at the base of her skull. She went limp instantly. Breathing heavily, Emerson bound all 3 trackers securely, then made his way back to the bunker. The sounds of battle had intensified above, the dull thud of explosions reverberating through the rock. "Emerson Hayes, returning," he announced at the sealed door. Voice print authentication. The door slid open to reveal a changed scene. Ula was on the medical bed, her face contorted with effort as Dr. Voss monitored her vital signs. The labor had progressed rapidly in Emerson's absence. "The trackers," Ula demanded between controlled breaths. "Neutralized," Emerson assured her. "All 3. How are you doing?" "The child comes," she said simply. Sooner than expected. Dr. Voss looked up from his instruments. "The empathic field has expanded dramatically in the last 20 minutes. It's affecting everything electronic within a 100-meter radius." As if to confirm his assessment, the lights flickered and the communication system emitted a high-pitched whine before stabilizing. "Can you contact the command center?" Emerson asked. "Intermittently," the doctor replied. Last report indicated clan forces had breached the outer perimeter. Captain Hayes has pulled defenders back to the central plaza. A new explosion, closer and more powerful than the previous ones, shook dust from the ceiling. "They're directly above us," Emerson realized. "They know we're here." Ula groaned, her composure finally breaking as a powerful contraction seized her. "The child senses conflict," she gasped. "It responds to violence with acceleration. Her vital signs are spiking," Dr. Voss reported urgently. "The baby's heart rate is nearly double normal parameters." "What can we do?" Emerson asked, moving to Ula's side and taking her hand instinctively. "Nothing," the doctor admitted. "This is unprecedented. The empathic field appears to be responding to the battle above, perhaps trying to end the conflict the only way it knows how, by hastening its own arrival. Another explosion rocked the bunker, closer still. The lights failed completely, plunging them into darkness until emergency illumination activated dim red lights that cast everything in blood-colored shadows. "We need to move her," Emerson decided. "They're going to breach this location any minute."
"Moving her now could kill both mother and child," Dr. Voss protested.
"Staying will definitely kill them," Emerson countered. "Korath wants the child, not Ula. Once she gives birth, she becomes expendable." Ula's amber eyes locked onto his.
"He is right," she told the doctor. "My father will eliminate any complication to his plans."
Another contraction hit, and she squeezed Emerson's hand with strength that made him wince.
"Help me up."
Together, they helped Ula to her feet. Dr. Voss gathered essential medical supplies, while Emerson checked the emergency exit, a narrow passage that led to the abandoned mining tunnels beyond the settlement. "This way," he urged, supporting Ula as they entered the rough-hewn corridor. "The mining complex extends for kilometers. If we can reach the old north shaft, there's a secondary shelter there." They moved as quickly as Ula's condition allowed, the sounds of battle growing more distant as they penetrated deeper into the abandoned mine. Dr. Voss monitored her constantly, his concern evident. "The birth is imminent," he warned after they'd traveled perhaps half a kilometer. "We need to stop." "Not yet," Ula insisted, her determination unwavering despite her physical distress. "A defensible position, with multiple exits." Emerson understood her thinking immediately. "The old foreman's office. It's just ahead. Overlooks 3 separate tunnels. We can see them coming from any direction." The office was little more than a reinforced alcove cut into the rock, with rusted metal supports and the remains of ancient monitoring equipment. But it offered what they needed: visibility in multiple directions, and solid stone at their backs. They settled Ula on the floor, Dr. Voss working quickly to create a sterile field with the limited supplies he'd brought. Emerson positioned himself at the entrance, weapon ready, watching the dark tunnels for any sign of pursuit. "The contractions are less than a minute apart," the doctor reported. "Dilation is complete. It's time to push, Ms. Sarathi." Ula nodded, gathering her remaining strength. As she began to push, the air around them seemed to thicken, taking on an almost visible quality, like heat shimmer on a desert horizon. "The empathic field," Dr. Voss murmured in fascination. "It's manifesting physically." Emerson felt it too, a strange pressure against his consciousness. Not unpleasant, but insistent, like someone gently seeking entrance to a locked room. He glanced at Ula and saw her eyes widen in wonder despite her pain.
"I feel the child's mind," she whispered. "So clear, so bright."
The distant sounds of combat that had been their constant companion suddenly intensified. Emerson tensed, raising his weapon as footsteps echoed through the tunnels, multiple sets, approaching rapidly from all 3 directions. "We have company," he warned grimly. "The child comes," Dr. Voss reported. "One more push, Ms. Sarathi." Ula complied with a guttural cry of effort that echoed through the stone chambers. At that precise moment, 3 groups converged on their position: clan warriors from 2 tunnels, settlement defenders led by Captain Hayes from the 3rd. "Hold your fire!" Emerson shouted, as weapons were raised on all sides. "Woman giving birth here." Remarkably, they hesitated, all of them, clan and defender alike. The strange pressure in the air had intensified, becoming almost tangible. It seemed to press against everyone present, holding them in place with gentle but irresistible force. From the largest contingent of clan warriors, a figure stepped forward, tall, imposing, with elaborate markings that could only belong to a clan leader. Korath had come personally to claim his prize. "Father," Ula acknowledged, her voice strained but composed despite her ordeal. "Daughter," he replied, his amber eyes moving from her face to where Dr. Voss worked between her legs. The prophecy comes to fruition. No thanks to you, she spat. Before Korath could respond, a new cry filled the chamber, the first wail of a newborn child. Dr. Voss lifted the infant, tiny but perfectly formed, skin a blend of human pink and seraphy obsidian, creating a unique mottled pattern, like twilight. A girl, the doctor announced unnecessarily. As the child cried, the pressure in the air crystallized, becoming a visible luminescence that emanated from her tiny form. It spread outward in gentle waves, washing over everyone present. Emerson felt it pass through him like a warm breeze, carrying with it emotions not his own wonder, curiosity, and a profound, unconditional love. Around the chamber, weapons lowered as if by unspoken agreement. Expressions of hatred and determination melted into confusion, then wonder. Even Korath, his face previously a mask of cold purpose, seemed transfixed by the sensation. "What is this?" Captain Hayes whispered, her weathered features softening. "Empathic resonance," Dr. Voss replied in hushed awe. "The child is projecting her emotional state to everyone within range." "Impossible," one of the clan warriors muttered, though he made no move to raise his weapon again. "The prophecy spoke truly," Korath said, his voice uncharacteristically gentle. "But not as I interpreted it. Not control through power, but unity through understanding." Ula reached for her child, and Dr. Voss placed the newborn on her chest. The infant's cries subsided as she nestled against her mother, the luminescence pulsing in time with her tiny heartbeat. "Her name is Hope," Ula declared, looking directly at her father. "And she belongs to no one but herself." Korath took a step forward, then stopped as Emerson moved protectively closer to Ula and the child. For a tense moment, it seemed the clan leader might order an attack despite the empathic influence. Then, in a gesture that shocked his warriors, Korath knelt. "The prophecy is fulfilled, but not as I planned. The child has already begun to unite us, not through domination, but through shared experience." He looked up at his daughter. "I wronged you, Ula. I saw only the end, not the means. I betrayed my own blood in pursuit of power." "Yes," Ula agreed coldly. "You did." "I cannot undo what is done," Korath continued. "But I can honor the true meaning of the prophecy. The child Hope has shown us a different path." Captain Hayes, ever practical, spoke up. "A beautiful sentiment, but we still have clan forces attacking my settlement and people dying on both sides." "No longer," Korath replied, rising. He spoke rapid commands in the clan language, and one of his warriors activated a communication device. Within minutes, the sounds of battle above had ceased entirely. "What happens now?" Emerson asked, still positioned protectively beside Ula and Hope. "Now," Korath said thoughtfully, "we begin the work the prophecy truly intended. Not conquest, but cooperation. Not control, but connection." "Pretty words," Captain Hayes said skeptically. "But we've heard promises before." "This is different," Dr. Voss interjected, monitoring the infant with fascination. "The empathic field is stabilizing. It's not just a temporary phenomenon, the child is creating permanent neural links between those exposed to her resonance. I can measure the changes in our brain patterns." "What does that mean in practical terms?" Emerson asked. "It means," Ula explained, gazing down at her daughter with wonder, "that those who have experienced Hope's resonance will carry a piece of each other's emotional reality forever. Not mind control, but empathy. True empathy. A foundation for understanding previously impossible between our peoples," Korath added. "The beginning of healing for wounds centuries old." In the days that followed, an uneasy peace settled over Kepler's rest. Clan warriors and settlement defenders worked side by side to repair damage from the battle, their former enmity tempered by the lingering effects of Hope's empathic resonance. Ula recovered swiftly, her enhanced physiology healing the trauma of childbirth faster than a human mother would. Hope grew visibly day by day, her empathic field strengthening and becoming more nuanced as she developed. Korath remained at the settlement, not as conqueror, but as diplomat, beginning the complex process of forging formal alliances between the clans and the free settlements beyond hegemony control. It was tentative, fragile, but real. 1 week after Hope's birth, Emerson found Ula standing on the observation platform above the main plaza, watching clan warriors and settlers sharing a meal together. "Thinking of leaving?" he asked, noting the travel pack at her feet. "Considering options," she replied. "This place is safer than most, but no place will be truly safe for Hope, not until she's old enough to control her abilities." "Captain Hayes has offered permanent sanctuary," Emerson reminded her. "With the clan alliance, Korath's protection—" "My father's change of heart is genuine," Ula interrupted. "But not all clan leaders will share his epiphany. Some will see Hope as a threat to their power, others as a weapon to be controlled." She turned to face him fully. "And beyond the clans, there are the corporations, the hegemony, countless factions who would exploit her." "So where will you go?" Emerson asked quietly. "I don't know yet. Somewhere remote. Somewhere I can teach her to understand her gift without the pressure of politics and prophecy." She hesitated. "I hoped you might know such a place." Emerson smiled slowly. "As it happens, I might. The Wanderer is nearly repaired. Once she's space-worthy again—" "You would come with us?" Ula seemed surprised despite herself. "If you'll have me," he replied simply. "Someone needs to fly the ship, and—" He struggled to find the right words. Hope should have more than one person looking out for her. Understanding dawned in Ula's amber eyes. "You've felt it too. The connection." Emerson nodded. "Everyone who was present at her birth shares it, but for some of us, it's deeper." "A family," Ula said, testing the word. "Not by blood or clan or prophecy, by choice." "By choice," Emerson agreed. Below them, in the plaza, clan warriors and settlers continued their shared meal, former enemies finding common ground in the simple act of breaking bread together. Children played between tables, unaware of the boundaries that had once divided the adults around them. And in a carefully guarded room nearby, infant Hope slept peacefully, her dreams sending gentle ripples of empathic resonance outward, touching minds, bridging differences, healing ancient wounds with each tiny heartbeat. Not through domination, but through understanding. Not through control, but through connection. Not through prophecy fulfilled as written, but through love freely given and received. "A new beginning for all of them,"